All right, welcome back, Irene Purcell. I am so pleased to be with you here again this evening.
Oh, lovely to see you again too, Crystal. Thanks for asking me back.
Well, we had such a rich, juicy conversation last time. I couldn't wait for the next one. So for those that didn't catch our first video, I'm not going to go through the whole introduction again. I'll put a link to our first video that tells you all about Irene if you're curious. And we are going to just jump into a conversation and see what happens. So, Irene, where will we start? I thought I might start by asking you, what's feeding your soul creatively at the moment? What's happening with your art?
Yeah, that's a good one. The short answer to that is that I stopped making paintings in my studio. It's a few months ago now. I was not spending a lot of time, but I was focused on, just for the fun of it, as I sat at home drawing in sketchbooks. And when I say drawing, I don't mean I would draw things that I could see. I was simply using drawing materials to make lines and marks and shapes. And that was a really fun thing to do, and it was really interesting to watch it without any planning whatsoever develop. And I could, there's a very sort of a clear sense of this is how Irene draws. The paintings in the studio just really stalled. I think, to be honest, I've been trying for a couple of months at least to discover the next thing, the next part of the puzzle, the next step along the way, having finished a big-ish series of work in the early months of the year. And I just thought I would just pick up and carry on in some way, as I've always done, but it wasn't happening. And I took some steps and I made some moves and I did some things. And then eventually one day when I was sitting looking at them, not knowing what I was going to quite do next, I noticed for the first time, it's a funny thing, how I was feeling. I was feeling really flat about the work. And I ultimately landed on the word bored. I'm kind of bored. I don't know what's happening here. And so the work stopped happening. I took up this kind of this drawing in sketchbooks, which was really nice. I was doing that at home. And then what happened was I discovered process painting. And the short now uptick from that is I'm now engaged in a 7-month-long program with Patty Ripley, who does her own hybrid kind of process painting combined with energy work. And so it feels to me as though all of that part of the journey was meant to happen. I was meant to find a new way to dig into a whole other world of change and inspiration for future work. Because I've come to realize that I think, I'm sure that I need to dig deeply into fuller and fuller freedom. And I think there's some weird and wonderful stuff that wants to come out of me. And I think process painting and this process along with Patty is the thing that's going to unlock that next level. So wow, that's what's been happening.
Well, I'm so glad we started with that question, because I'm in a similar place with my embroidery, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and have been for months and months. And it's like, oh, come on, what's going on here? This has never happened to me before.
Oh, wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, it is. So tell me a little bit about your definition of what this process painting looks like, especially mixed with energy work. This is fascinating.
Right. Well, bearing in mind I knew very little about process painting, so I can't do direct comparisons or anything like that. But I'm a part of Louise Fletcher's art tribe, which is her paid subscription membership group. And each month, Louise brings a new masterclass. And a couple of months ago, she brought Patty Ripley in to do a masterclass with her on process painting. And they talked about it and they demoed it. So they demoed Patty facilitating Louise in a process painting session, a short one.
Yeah.
After which I then got very, very interested, and so on and so on and so on. For the overall definition of the painting part of Patty's offer, process painting is simply about coming to paper and paint with no desire for a finished product,
Right.
with no need to question what arrives on the paper, with a very fully embodied beginning. So becoming fully embodied rather than thinking, what shall I make and what shall it look like? Becoming embodied before the practice, before the painting, and finding through the facilitation that Patty offers, finding what is alive for you here and now in this moment. What colour is it? What shape is it? Is there an image? How does it feel? And trying simply to give in to this that arises. So it's about learning to tap in more and more deeply to the intuition, which will show you what to put on to the paper. And then it's about allowing what comes. It's about not treating it as you would your art, your normal art, and looking at composition and contrast and all of those things that we all become so aware of when we learn about what makes art good, what makes our art stronger and better and so on. So we don't do any of that. It's simply about painting, feeling, stepping back and saying, so what's next? What color, what shape, what image is asking me to arrive next? And then simply moving with that, with no care for judgment or result. So that's roughly what the process painting part is. Other people talk of expressive painting, expressive arts. It's all part of the same sort of idea. And I imagine that people other than Patty learn about facilitating this kind of work and then bring in elements of themselves to add to it. So for Patty, there's the embodiment, the things that we do to facilitate the embodiment, and there's her own additional training in energy clearing, which of course, if you think about it, if you simply want to be in touch with your intuition and allow it to speak without judgment, then it might need a little bit of work to get you your own judgments and kind of clutter, if you like, out of your energy system so that it's clearer. Does that make sense? Have I made it sound?
No, it makes complete sense, because I'm a trained art therapist. So what you've just described is what I call art therapy.
Of course.
Just a different name for it. And I have a thing called process painting that I do that's completely different. So that's why I was super curious when you said process painting. It's like, oh, what's your version of process painting?
No, the other thing with this is that we're not interpreting what comes out.
My next question, are you dialoguing with the image? Are you journaling? Are you doing, you're just getting it out on paper, and then that's it?
Yeah, the process doesn't require us to understand any of it or to diagnose anything that arises because of it, or to give any meaning to it. This is about, I guess, primal stuff, really, that it isn't there as a therapy, although obviously it is therapeutic, just as painting itself in any form is therapeutic, whether or not you approach it as therapy.
I can't tell you how many times I say that it's not the finished object, it's the actual act of engaging in creativity, whatever that is for you. That's where the healing is. That's being in the present moment. That's the magic.
Absolutely. And I felt that I was going to be really, really ready for this, because it was as though I was set up, I was really set up for it. It was okay, stop painting. I'm trying to get the next lot out. It's not happening. It's not happening. Let it go. Leave it alone. What's the problem? I'm bored. So what happens when you're bored? Oh, you need new stimulation, perhaps. And then along comes this. And it kind of, when something new to you arises, and there it is, and you just say, yeah, that's for me. That's where I'm going. It's obvious. So it was really obvious that was where I had to go. So it feels like it was, my path is unfolding without me having to unfold anything knowingly. It is just happening. So for me to be able to notice in one or two of the facilitations that have happened so far, small things that were not difficult for me to see when Patty questioned me. It's a very gentle form of questioning. So if you like, there's a small group of us, 5 or 6 of us, and we're all on a Zoom call together. And when it comes to the time to start painting, we start painting. And then one by one, Patty will just come in and she'll say, so Irene, would you like to unmute? Are you ready? And, we are each of us given some of Patty's time, and she asks us, how are you feeling? What's happening? What's going on? And we, picking up on a couple of small things. The last one was very interesting. It was to do with the fact that I was busy doing what I was doing, and everything was very swirly and smooth and curvy and warm colours. And just before Patty came in to facilitate me, I'd seen this big kind of lumpy bit that had been laid down in earlier layers, and I wasn't liking it because it wasn't like the rest. It was disconnected from everything else that was going on, and it was in sort of darkish blue, so everything else was in golds and yellows and oranges and reds, and it was a bit of a sore thumb. And just before she came in, I had just started to attempt to pull it in to conform, if you like, to the rest of what was going on. And the questioning is wonderful because, it's very, very gentle. It's not confrontational. But I can't remember what she said, but it's basically, if I had to say, let's say, that looks muddy, and she would help me to see that muddiness is a thing that's allowed just as much as anything else. Could you make it even more muddy? And so there's this element of leaning into the things that we feel we naturally wish to resist. So don't resist. What is it? Could it be even more of itself?
Can you give yourself permission to allow it to grow and be present and
totally?
Yeah.
And it was already there. It might well be that under normal conditions it would be a thing I would change and cover up. But on this occasion, with just a very, very simple prompt, I found myself making this bit more, and it became incredibly different from the rest of what was happening on the paper. And I loved making it, and I loved what it was. It was alien, and I celebrated it with, I was yelling. It was just so powerful. So that is just one small bit after a couple of months of being with Patty, where I felt what it was like to allow something that I had no thought control over to come. So it's, quite an amazing experience, really.
Yeah, and I'm just fascinated because My model of working is we paint in exactly the same way, but then we unpack the image. We talk to the symbols, we'll interview it, we'll ask questions, we'll do some writing, we'll see what, you know, what the story there is. So just to do an image and not unpack it would be very challenging for me. But I'm hearing that you're actually getting the same therapeutic understanding without words.
I think that's probably right. And for me, that particular example felt like before I'd gone into it, before I'd gone into Patty and signing up to her course, before any of it, I just knew that there was weird and different stuff in me, in art, that wanted to come out.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how I would access it, but I knew there was something. So it's about becoming, you know, and this can go into all sorts of other arenas of you know, discussion and all the rest of it. But it's about becoming wilder, which is part of being more authentic. It's part of being more fully embodied as the female.
Yeah.
It's the wildness. I knew it was knocking, saying, come on, we need to come out more. We need to come out more.
Beautiful.
And I did not know how that could happen. And that first example of it on Wednesday night was absolutely such a ride. And yeah, it's there. And it's very interesting that some course participants, Patty guides people away from their desire to discuss the images that they've come up with. It's a this, it's a that. And I thought it was connected to that or this. And, you know, they're doing that habitual thing that we would all tend to do.
Yeah, we all go straight to the head. Yeah.
Interpret what we've just made, interpret what it means to us. And she's very skillfully guides us away from that. And I can feel the group in general relaxing into the allowing, which is at the heart of this practice.
And then if she's holding space on an energetic level, then I can see while you're all having an energetic understanding experience through mark making without cognitive processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Oof.
That's what's happening.
This is cool.
And she offers this container for 7 months. We've signed up for 7 months. So gosh, yeah, you know, 2 months in, it's feeling really exciting. It's feeling like, you know, as I say, this was the way I was meant to go.
Yeah. Is there some significance around the 7-month time frame? Because it's quite an unusual.
It is, isn't it? No, I don't know. I didn't ask her that. I didn't ask her that. No. And it, you know, I don't know. There might be material that, you know, she knows she wants to use with us, that she wants to space out. And I know what it might be. There's an integration month, I think, or no, I don't think she calls it that. We work together 3 weeks out of 4 in the month, and the 4th one is integration. And there are other things we can do in that time at home on our own. There are replays, there are meditations we can play back and use. But I think it's because over Christmas there's a break. So it might be that it might be a 6-month package that lasts for 7, but we're connected throughout the 7 because you know, we've got the usual, we've got the Facebook group and a message group and all of that. So she's on hand all the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, so I've got 2 thoughts. I don't know if we'll get back to my second thought, but my first thought is, have you read a book called Women Who Run with the Wolves?
Yes and no. I got the book many years ago and I didn't really get on with it, if I'm honest. It didn't make much sense to me at the time. There was something in me that knew that this wildness thing was, you know, was there. It was something I needed to look into, but I didn't get on with the book. And then again, more recently, I hooked up with some people online and they were about to do a book group study on that very book. So I bought another copy of the damn thing, having got rid of the first copy. And then for one reason or another, I couldn't make the sessions. And again, I haven't dipped into it. So everybody talks about it, but it's not kind of worked for me for whatever reason.
Yeah. And it's such, for me, it's a book that every woman should, or, you know, may be open to taking the journey with, but it's a lifelong journey. So I've had periods of my life where I ran a book club with it and was deeply involved in it, mainly because I didn't understand it. I would read these stories. I didn't understand completely the metaphor that they were, you know, Clarissa's trying to get across. And I think we understand each chapter, each story as we're ready to integrate it. Otherwise, a lot of it, even today, there's one chapter I still don't get. And that's, you know, 15 years after first reading the book. So yeah, I think finding our wild woman and learning how to express her authentically is a journey, a lifelong journey. Just doesn't happen in next week, you know, it's a process.
That's absolutely right. And even though this is a book that's highly recommended by many people, and even though it's a book which deals with themes and connected to that, you know, the freedom of the wildness within us, it might not be, you know, I knew, you know, it comes up in your life, and then, oh, that's there again, that damn book. And it might not be that the book is the thing that I particularly need, because my own path takes me to the places I need to go. And there are so many methodologies, there are so many writers, there are so many different kind of books and teachings and ways in which to, you know, get to the same place. So I don't dismiss it. I still own the book, but what I find a lot these days is that when I read a book that resonates, it's not teaching me anything. It's actually backing up what I've already learned. And that's also a really good way to come to a book, where it helps to say to you, you are on the right track, and you did know that, and
it's just confirmation, isn't it, that your inner guidance is on track, it's on point, and
And that confirmation for me is, and has been, becoming clearer and clearer and clearer, simply by the signs in my own life, simply by the way that I know I've given up control more and more and more and more, and that the things that I need, very specific things, really tiny, everyday specific things, arise, because there's so much less doing and so much more being and allowing. So however you come to that, then definitely, you know, it's all valid, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's chat about that. More being, less doing. I'm absolutely living more that way, but I have to say I'm struggling, because we are so used to doing that when I am called just to be, which is more and more and more on a daily basis, I will do the being, but I feel guilty. That conditioning, you know, is still there. It's like, look, just let it go. This is transformative times. Just start a new way. Just follow your guidance. But and I do follow it, but I'm not always fully present with it, fully integrated with it, because there is still that little conditioning voice that says, yes, but it's Monday afternoon and you should be in your office working or doing things this way. And more, I love, really love what you've shared about the art therapy, because where I'm going with all of my work at the moment feels to be more being, more energetic, rather than doing and thinking about how to get results, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It totally makes sense. Now, there's a big element in this that has to be seen and you know, and accepted, which is that at different times in our lives, we live in different ways, and there are times when, living in the world that we live in a civilized society, we are people who work. We have to pay our bills. We have to do things to earn the money, to enable us to go on having a life, having a house, having whatever you know, whatever it is that makes up our life. The struggle that must be, I imagine, people who have either a job or a business, but also a keen awareness of their own personal development and wanting, as you've just described, to embrace being more than doing. Virtually everything else in that person's life is pulling them to doing. And the job of simply saying I'm being is a harder job than, for example, me, who's retired. And lest that gives a false impression, you know, the idea of being retired and then you can just be, which means the feet are up and you've stopped growing. It's not that at all, because I got the first inner knowing about being versus doing way back in my 40s. And so that message was in there, but it unfolds and becomes real slowly. And it depends, in my view, it depends on a constant desire, need, and willingness to go within. And I don't by that simply mean meditate. If you meditate at the start of the day, then you'll go out into a day where you can be instead of do. I don't mean that. And I think that there are certain areas in life where that as a simple fix is often offered. As long as you've got a morning practice, the rest of it's going to be easy. I think it's about a conscious connection to that which is, you know, greater than us, to that which is at source of all that is, some form of connection which becomes more and more real. And it doesn't matter then if what you're doing is quiet meditation in the morning or just a tirade in a conversation with your own center as you drive through horrible traffic. And there's all kinds of ways of being connected to that. But for me, that's been the key thing, being connected to that which is at source of all things and maintaining that connection by whatever is real for you. And for me, a lot of it's been about journaling. And I think it must be really, really hard. And I know, obviously, we both do. We know people in the world of creativity and art, and I know a lot of artists who are busy making a living from the work that they make. And how do you tell people or help people in that position to give in more to being rather than doing? And I don't know the answer there, you know. I think it's a big topic, but I think maybe some form of trust, maybe some form of checking in frequently to see whether you're actually on the right path. And if it feels that you're on the right path, you've got the right heading, you're going, then trust that. I think we have to trust that our own imperfection in kind of being and trusting and letting go. I think we need to know that our own imperfections are part of the package. And if we want it, and I guess that is the bottom line, wanting it, intending it, trusting that those deep drivers will take us forward seems to me to be a very key thing.
Yeah, for me, it's the challenge is exactly that, living in a 3D world where I have to work to support myself, you know, to live. And then having such a rich spiritual inner world, which could very easily take over, especially at the moment. But balance is very important to me and always has been, how to hold those two complexities at the same time. But this year, more than ever, I have never been so guided to sit, just be. I spent hours sitting in my garden, meditating, but just sitting, connecting, whatever it is. But I'm certainly not planning my marketing strategy for the new courses or the new pieces, which is what I used to do all the time. And it's really been, you know, I've been on a journey of surrender for the last few years, but this year I have been called to surrender and trust and be courageous in the being rather than the doing in a way that I've never experienced before. And it's a challenge. And
that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I'm just going to say it's a big challenge. So it's really kind of strange because I have a deep inner knowing that my guidance is spot on. And I have no doubt, you know, it's like knowing the theory, but then you're really challenged to practice it, to embody it, to live it. It's like, oh shit, this is getting pretty scary now. And then I center and I go back and I just keep doing it.
Well, you said the magic word. You said the word surrender. Now, that is key. You know, when I was speaking a moment ago, I was trying to think, what are all the keys? And I suppose, you know, I said trust, but it can be encompassed in surrender, which is not a thing that comes easily to most people, because it feels like giving up, giving in, stopping caring, all of those negative connotations that it has. But here's the thing. If we're focused on surrendering to the greater fullness of life, really, the universe, God, the spirit, whatever we want to call it, if we can trust, then surrendering to that means that the wondrous and magical thing that if we've surrendered our control over everything that has to get done, and instead we're trusting that we can be guided through each day, then everything does get done. It's just that we're not driving it, you know. So it's kind of like getting into the passenger seat, trusting that the driver will take us to each point that we need to stop at. Oh, but I've got to do so-and-so to order those business cards and blah, blah, blah. It's okay. Yeah. I'm driving. You're surrendered. Here we go. Oh, I see. Now we're doing it. Oh, that feels like a smoother route than the one I was going to take. Yeah. And I've known, you know, I've come to this in so many small, tiny, silly little ways where, for example, just as an example, I will make a mental note. Oh, I need to go shopping, right? I need to go get food. All right. And if it doesn't feel like being done in that moment, I trust that. And it could be several days where I keep finding there is actually more food in the house than I'd thought, and I can keep having a meal, and, you know, it's okay. And then one day, the moment arises, it's hard to describe it, but there's just a sense of, now go shopping. And when I then go shopping, here's the thing, I love it. It's an enjoyable pursuit. It's not, oh God, I've got to get the shopping. I'll dash there and do that before I go to so-and-so and do such and such. It's sort of when we're in control, when we're organizing how it all fits together, it kind of can lose a sense of flow. It can lose a sense of ease. But when we get out of the driving seat and we trust that because we really, really want to be in tune with our own higher self, with living in a way that's sustainable for us and good for us, if we really want that and we get out of the driving seat, however tentatively, then we discover that the routes are smoother. The stuff gets done because the energy is there to do it in the moment that it's meant to get done, and we couldn't see that. And that is, for me, it's a wonderful thing. And you're talking about, you know, surrender, and I know that you did when we talked before, and you did when you talked to Chris. The surrender thing is a big thing for you at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, because when he asked me which chapter in his book, I'd like to talk about, it's like, I need the whole book because every chapter spoke to my soul. I just was in love with your book. But surrender's my biggest challenge. So that's why I chose that one to speak to him. And I think for most of us it is. And if I look back just to say 2019, where it really started, I can remember doing yoga poses in the morning going, yes, I surrender, but I would like this. You know, it was just, and I was just laughing to myself about it the other day. And I really was trying to the best of my ability in that moment to surrender to the level that I could. And it was like, okay, so I'll let that go. All right, source, you know, show me the way. But I really would like to go back to Paris and blah, 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 blah. So, you know, it's just in case, you know, that little extra bit of information needed to be added. And then slowly, but you know, if you think 219 to 222, that's quite a slow process, but it's really, and I'm not quite there. I reckon I'm 80% of the way there, but still the little, you know, the ego wants things her way. And so
totally. And you know, these things are lifelong processes. You know, if you like, my first experience that you know was a complete game changer, life-changing experience, was getting close to 40 years ago now. And there was for me then surrender, total surrender. But habitually, we are not surrendered. Habitually, we are doing, being in charge, being in the driving seat. So having had an experience that meant, you know, I totally, you know, I'm not in charge of my life anymore. It didn't mean that all of that habitual, how I lived, it wasn't then going to take years and years to unpick. It does. It takes years to unpick. So, you know, that's why returning to knowing that we want it, we really want it, and we really intend it, and we're just not perfect at it. That kind of self-acceptance and the intention setting that you know, this is who I want to be. I want to be more and more fully surrendered. That goes on, and I think that you know, it does go on for a very long time.
Hence the word yoga practice, art practice, you know. We're becoming, we're in the process of becoming fully integrated, fully embodied, fully knowledgeable, whatever it is. And
you know, maybe if we live more than one life, you know, we go as far as we're meant to go in this life, and it's something that we get the option to pick up again later. I don't have solid, set, concrete beliefs around this, but I have a sense that there's a whole lot more, there's a whole lot bigger going on. And all I know is that here and now, you know, I'm part of it, and my life's been, you know, pretty much dedicated to expanding into all that it's possible for me to be, and not really knowing the whys and wherefores, but knowing that it matters somehow, and is part of other things that matter.
Well, this is where I'm sitting at the moment, at such an extraordinary time on the earth with all the changes that are happening. You know, I used to think, how can I, little me in my little world, how can I possibly contribute to that? And I've come to a deep understanding this year that my business is just to fully expand my consciousness, myself, to the absolute best that I can. And if everybody was doing that, the outside world would transform. So by just me focusing on my inner world, which reflects in my outer world, which touches the people who come into my small but powerful little world, it's like, okay. Because I think I used to sit back and think, oh, okay, I need to share this knowledge. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Should I run a course? Should I write a book? You know, all of this old stuff. And it's like, no, all I have to do is be. There you go. All I have to do is be myself and focus on my growth, my expansion, my consciousness. What level am I bringing to the world? What's my intention? How do I want to be on a daily basis? And, 7-8 billion people in the world. Imagine if even half of us were focusing on that. Everything would just transform.
Yes. And it's really common, isn't it, for us perhaps at certain times of our lives too, to wonder how on earth we affect the world, the planet. And I, for one, for sure, for a long time kept thinking, is this it? Is this what I do? Thinking, if I do this, is that the way I should go? Thinking always of the greatest reach, the greatest effects I can possibly have. Whereas it's been, as you've just said, it's become more and more and more and more and more about my own transformation, and how without me then trying, that transformation touches other people and causes further things to happen, because it isn't just about the things that I do while I'm being, it's about the opportunities that come my way when I'm surrendered to the path unfolding without me trying to grip it and say, but this is what I should be doing. If I'm not doing that, then the appropriate path is allowed to arise in front of me. And I can then find myself involved with people, with things that I didn't set up, I didn't plan, I didn't foresee, but they are more and more likely to be the perfect arenas for me to just be me. So I'm still only being me, and more than anything, just showing up as me. I got involved recently in a new venture in my city, and I was very excited about the possibilities as soon as I heard of it, as soon as the 3 or 4 of us got together with a view to making this thing, happen. And one of the things I had to do very early on was withdraw from tasks and roles that didn't feel like the kind of things I wanted to be doing. And it felt as though I needed to, make myself quite clear. I didn't apologize, but I felt I needed to give some kind of explanation about why it wasn't for me to be doing this or that or the other. But I didn't know what my role was meant to be. And I had to sit with confidence in the not knowing. I know I'm to be involved. I know that these tasks and roles are not for me. I know that I'm not going to sign up to some kind of rota for doing that or doing this. But somehow it's right that I'm here. And that's a tricky one. And I had to say to a few others who were apologizing for not being able to do a thing, please, 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 you are not to apologize. You are not to explain yourself. You are to show up as you. And if there's a distinctive way of you being you for the greater good, it will show itself to you. And that's proving to be the case. And the right people for the tasks just keep coming through the door, basically. And I can just be me and have the involvement that's right for me without apology or explanation. That's a tricky one.
Yeah, it is indeed. And that feeling for me, sitting in the unknown, the uncomfortableness of the unknown, not falling into old roles that I've done in the past, I'm struggling with that, because it's a default reaction to go, oh yeah, okay, I can do this and this and this. And it's like, yeah, but I don't actually, that doesn't light me up anymore. I don't want to do that. And yes, I've got the skills to do it, but I feel that chapter's done.
Totally.
But I haven't yet turned the page to know what the new chapter looks like.
And that unknowing.
It's
the unknowing
no man's land.
Yep, and it's an important place to be. You have to put things down and like have nothing and have space before you're ready to, pick up and do the next thing. And, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I've been in that place myself in my life where, yeah, I'm capable of this, I'm capable of that. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do this. And now I don't. And it's more about knowing this has come along. I've stepped into it with literal chills down my back, knowing it's right, knowing it's something I'm part of, but also happily not knowing in quite what way I'm going to be able to simply share me, because this is what it's become for me, that I don't teach skills, I don't run how-tos. I don't. I show up as me, and somehow or other, the experience, the insights, and the knowings that I have come to over many years seem to be wanted in the moment and can be released in the moment. I've just asked whether they were interested in me giving a series of talks, and the people that are all involved in the team are definitely interested. But I also then hit that realization that if I do this, there won't be a set curriculum. They won't know what's coming each week, because I will be modeling this process, the process in process painting, the creative process, which is, I'll be talking to creatives about the creative process and about mindset issues. But in order to do it the right way, I have to be modeling the creative process in the giving of the talks. So I can have a vague sense of, yeah, there's this. I could talk about that. But I don't know what's going to be right on the night. Right. It's going to depend on the energy in the room and who's there and what's needed. And I can set things off, but then I just have to sit back and look and see.
Yeah.
So I haven't done that kind of thing before, but I think that might be something I'll do.
And I think it's more and more the way forward. You know, like our conversation tonight, no plan. I didn't want to do the introduction thing. It's like, okay, we've done that in the first video. Let's just jump in. We're both fabulous creative people. Let's start a conversation, see where it leads us. And look, it's been another fabulous conversation, you know. So I think there's so much room. We know who we were in the doing. We haven't yet fully met ourselves in the being. We don't yet know, because it's new and we're all just starting to live in this energetic creative world.
This is good. This takes us from the micro, like you and me, into the macro, which is about the evolution of life. And you're absolutely right. That is becoming, I think, more and more a thing that people are sitting up and taking notice of. And what we're doing as individuals is we are saying we are willing not to find our identity in the jobs that we do and the roles that we do. We are willing to discover our deeper identity in spirit, as spirit. We are willing to find that and expose it, because it can do a far greater job of living as a human being than we can do, relying upon our skills and our jobs and our experiences and all of the great things we can do. We will not be stopped from doing all of the great things that we can do, but they will be part of something much more big and much more beautiful when we are allowing our true selves to be.
My mantra, or mantra's not the right word, but every time I doubt myself or am going in for inner guidance because I'm conflicted about something, the knowing that comes to me is, remember who you truly are. All you have to do. You don't have to overthink it, don't have to plan it, don't have to guess it. You just have to remember who you truly are.
Yes.
And that is such a helpful, I'll say the word tool, or helpful knowing or guidance for me, because it stops that disconnect between, you know, the overthinking. I get back into my heart space, remember to take a deep breath, you know, just to ground myself. And it's like, okay, who am I then? How would I be? You know, show me. Show me.
And at this particular time in the world, it's important to say that it's so understandable how people get frightened and despairing. And I think, therefore, it's more important than ever to pull back into who you are at the center of yourself, and to know that the being you is the biggest and most important thing you can do for the world, really. And that's not to say that people should not be activists. There are those who are called to be activists, to change things at a societal level, and they're doing an incredible work to do that. But the work that all of us can do is so much more marked by an ease once we grasp that it's about me being me and you being you. And if we are genuinely walking more and more towards that, then we're going to find congruence with one another, and the energy that comes from us that is separate from a striving personal gain type of energy, when it's more to do with a holistic being energy, then we infect other people all around us without us even knowing.
Or trying. I think I used to try, you know, as an art therapist, I'm here to help you, you know, let's have a chat, let's do this. And now I don't do that anymore. I'm just me. And I'm just being. And I might say something that's helpful to someone, and that's great. And I think we never know how we affect each other's lives. Just saying hello to somebody at the bus stop might make that person's day. You don't know, you know, you just don't know. And as we're kind of wrapping up, I'm thinking about our first conversation when your body of work was all about we're connected.
Everything is connected. That's been my, you know, tagline, if you like, since the moment I realized I needed to pick up a brush to try to express that.
Yeah. And I think for me this year, all of these spiritual sayings, we are all connected, surrender, all of these lovely things that we hear are taking on a really different level of understanding for me this year. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. I thought I understood it, but I really didn't. And I'm, still in that process of remembering.
Yeah, the understanding of so much of this has to shift from here to here.
Yes.
It has to, you know, we can grasp things conceptually and mentally, and we can be saying for many years, yes, I know that, it makes such sense, I agree, I accept it. But it's the working it into the very fiber of our being that takes the time, which is what we were saying earlier. It's a long, lifelong journey. And it does take time, and you know, you're kind of playing between understanding it here and knowing it there. So it becomes more knowing. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, I'm glad to hear, though. I'm really pleased to hear, you know, you've articulated it so clearly, where you are in that whole journey. So it's good to talk about this and be of mutual support.
Yeah, absolutely, because there have been times where I felt really lost, you know, really lost as you're disengaging from who you were. But you know, I feel like in many ways we're pioneers on the earth at this point of time. And things are about to change dramatically and wonderfully. But we don't know what that's going to look like yet, because we're literally creating it moment to moment.
And we can create beautiful microcosms of that. We mustn't be overwhelmed by oh, but what will it take to change the whole world? How will those, you know, those people ever see things any differently? And it's almost like, no, that's not your business. Your business is your own microcosm. And as we've said, the energy that changes within you is transmittable. All of our energy transmits, whether it's, you know, helpful or unhelpful energy.
Yeah,
so the more we work on us, the more benefit those in our little microcosms of our tiny worlds that get infected by it.
And there's lots of us, 7 or 8 billion. You know, that's a lot of people doing their own little thing, changing the world, one little energetic molecule at a time. So pretty amazing.
It is.
Well, I am so looking forward to talking to you again soon to hear about your process painting and where it's going to take you. You know, we'll give it a couple of months and then connect again, because I'm super excited for you on a personal level to see what you and curious to see what you're going through. But I have been very much drawn back to my art therapy since Louise's course, which is not what I expected to gain out of her course, but it's where it led me. And currently really wanting to evolve the model that I work in. It's no longer right for me, and take it somewhere else. So I just find that that's where our conversation started today.
Absolutely.
You know, process painting with an energetic essence to it in a completely different way than the way I was trained and the way I practice it. So yeah, that's really lighting me up, and will give me lots to think about in the next week or so. And
well, it'll be great to have this forum for us, you know, to talk, for me to feed back, you know, as you say, another couple of months down the line. What will have moved, what will have shifted, what will I be seeing, feeling, talking about? And it'd be great to catch up again.
And I'm curious to whether you then go back to your art painting and then how it's changed, how your marks change, how your color choices, all of that will be really, really, how wild are you going to become, Irene? What's going to come out of you?
Exactly. I'm not even asking the question of Patty, you know, how is this going to affect my studio work? Because I know that she does both. So all I have to say is it's going to come. Whatever it is, I don't know, but it's going to come. And I don't think you can put the wild back in the box, do you?
No, because I was just going to say, once you've been through such a powerful process, you will return to your studio a different person. So the work is going to have a different energetic feel about it. But then I'm just curious to see, how that transforms compared to your previous works.
Me too. Me too.
Stay tuned. Next exciting adventure.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Really grateful. Love having these conversations with you. And I'll put all Irene's information below so that you can contact either of us if you would like to. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Oh, thank you for having me back, Crystal. It's been lovely.
Bye.
We'll speak again soon. Bye.